Hello. This is Milena Korostenskaja, or simply Dr. K. I'm a neuroscientist and I'm also a career and business coach. I help people overcome their fear to create businesses and careers of their dreams. And today is my weekly rubric Ask Dr. K. It's the first week of Ask Dr. K. I received 3 questions and I will answer all of them. I will start with the first question that I have received. Question number 1. It was sent by Instagram user Ivan Koros. And the question is the following. There are so many types of neuroscience. How do I know where I want to start exploring the field? So, for those who are just starting, for students, for people who want to switch maybe from one part of science to neuroscience, maybe from computer science to neuroscience, maybe from engineering to neuroscience. I know people from philosophy switching to neuroscience. If you are high school student, you are already considering starting work in this field. So really, where do we start? Such a wonderful question. Um, Today, I will share with you 3 major approaches that I would suggest to a person who is just starting. My favorite one is um, tip number 1, trip to the future. And those people who work with me, my clients who work with me on my coaching programs, they know that I always bring them at least one time on that trip to the future. What does it mean? It means that we can imagine ourselves 10, 20, 50, 100 years down the road, yes, and more. It depends on your beliefs. But we can start with them maybe 10 years, 20 years. We can ask ourselves, where do we see ourselves in 10 years from now? What would be that place where we want to work? Are we imagining ourselves sitting in the lab and working with microscopes, working with petri dishes, working with tissues? Or are we working maybe with animals and looking at their behavior? We're looking at mazes. We are administering different tasks. Or we see ourselves in the nature. Maybe we see ourselves going to the deepest levels of the sea and learning about the deep sea vision. And this is how I actually got very interested in neuroscience after listening to a lecture about the deep sea fish vision. And this is when I decided I am doing my PhD. I want to know. And there are people who are going to those deepest levels of the ocean, of the sea, and exploring and finding new species. Maybe you want to study the nervous system of octopuses. Yes. So there are so many interesting things you can do. Imagine yourself. Um, or maybe you are that person who wants to work with people. You are interested in animal studies, but people are the ones who interest you the most. And actually, this is what I decided for myself, that although, yes, I'm very interested in deep sea fish vision and other studies, I want to work with humans. Yes, then you can explore that. You again imagine yourself, if you are working with people, you are working with humans, what do you want to do? These basic studies of memory, attention, how we are learning. Do you want to look at people's behavior, or do you want to add additional studies of the brain, maybe brain imaging? Maybe you want to add some sensors on the head of people and register electrical potentials of the brain or magnetic fields of the brain. Maybe this is what you want to do. Maybe you want to look at the images of the brain and see the activation within the brain when a person is performing certain task. Yes, then you will use functional magnetic resonance imaging. So more basic studies. Then maybe you are imagining yourself in clinical settings. You are working at the hospital and doing research that is directly applicable to different patient population. And this is what I personally do. I work on the team with epileptologists, with brain surgeons, and we are designing the studies that and approaches that can help actual patients, integrating the most innovative approaches into clinical practice, into brain surgery. Yes, so this is something that you want to do. Just take a minute, sit down, and imagine yourself in the future. What do you want to do? How do you see yourself 10 years from now? So that was number one approach. Yes, number one, trip to the future. Number two approach. It's so interesting for me to see how the things that we did when we were young, very young, influenced us when we grew up. So this second approach that I will call it's trip to the past. Again, sit down and just remember everything that happened to you up to this date and what exactly in science was provoking your attention. I remember that already in high school, when one of my friends, she actually sent from St. Petersburg, she sent me a book on neuroscience. I became very interested in it. Already when I was going to high school, I was going to volunteer. I was going to work with the brain cancer studies. So I always saw that something really clinically relevant is important to me. Um, have a look. What was that was uh, that you really liked in your past? What was provoking your interest? And that might be an indication where you can start exploring right now. So, trip to the past, it's approach number two. And the third approach. The third approach is simply taking the first step. In this approach, I want to tell you that there is no wrong or right way to do this um, thing. Yes, this um, investigation of where you want to start. And I would like to remind you of the Chinese proverb that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it doesn't matter what you do, you are getting on the right path. The most important just to take that step instead of really thinking and ruminating and just really spending time instead of taking actions. And in this case, what I really would recommend to look what is available around. Maybe there is a center for mental health. Yes, you can go and volunteer there. Maybe it's a hospital with a neuroscience program, and maybe they are looking for people who want to volunteer. If you are passing the corridor in the hospital and you see the sign brain science lab or brain computer interface lab, knock on the door and see maybe they need volunteers. And this is how some medical students got to work with me because they were having their rotations nearby. And one amazing student, one of the brightest students I ever had, he actually knocked on the door and he said, "This brain computer interface lab, that sounds so interesting. Can I start working with you?" So it's really up to you. The most important, take that first step. Okay, to summarize, you can take the trip to the future, you can take the trip to the past, and you can simply take your first step, remembering that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I hope I answered your question, and I wish you all possible success on your journey to becoming a neuroscientist. And for all, I really would like to invite you to send questions, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and I'm looking forward to answering other questions for you in the near future. Okay, bye bye.